Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are taking a look at a really fascinating stack of research to answer, well, a pretty straightforward question.
Yeah, a surprisingly simple one.
Right. Why do we treat chronic stress like it requires this massive, expensive life overhaul when there's a completely free biological prescription sitting literally right outside?
Exactly.
So we've pulled data today directly from studies published in Frontiers in Psychology, Psychological Science, and the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health.
Hmm.
And our mission here is to give you, the busy, curious listener, a real shortcut to understanding the hard science behind how your environment fundamentally alters your internal chemistry. And we're going to do it without, getting bogged down in all that info overload.
Yeah, because we often visualize stress management as this, grueling
Oh,
process.
totally. Like you have to completely change everything.
Right. You might think you need to adopt a 2-hour-a-day meditation practice or, totally change your career or move to a remote cabin to escape the pressure.
Yeah, go totally off the grid.
But the research we're looking at today flips that narrative entirely.
Yeah.
It moves stress relief from being this luxury to being a built-in biological mechanism that, honestly, most of us are simply forgetting to activate.
Okay, let's unpack this because the core concept running through all these sources is that modern life just fundamentally disconnects us from natural environments.
Yep, completely.
And that disconnection directly fuels our chronic stress. But the data shows that an intervention of just 20 to 30 minutes outside can structurally alter our stress hormones.
What's fascinating here is that we aren't talking about the subjective, fuzzy feeling of simply getting some fresh air.
Right, which always sounds a bit like folklore, honestly.
It does. We hear it constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But the researchers approach this by looking at physiological interventions that physically and, immediately change the body's biochemistry.
And that chemistry aspect is what makes this so compelling to me. I mean, they wanted to test what they called a nature pill. And to do that, they bypassed the usual self-reported surveys. They didn't just ask people, how relaxed do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10?
Right, because those can be so biased.
Exactly. Instead, they used salivary biomarkers to physically measure the concentration of cortisol in the participants' bodies.
Yeah.
Like right before and right after spending time outside.
Which really is the gold standard for this kind of research. I mean, cortisol is your primary stress hormone, right? Produced by the adrenal glands.
It's the big one.
Yeah, it's what triggers your liver to release glucose for fast energy when you perceive a threat. But to understand the significance of the results, we first have to recognize how the body normally processes cortisol on an average day.
Under healthy conditions, you mean?
Right. Under healthy conditions, your cortisol levels don't just stay static. You get a spike in the early morning to help you wake up and, get moving.
Makes sense.
And then your body initiates this gradual, natural reduction of the hormone throughout the afternoon and evening so you can eventually sleep. Endocrinologists call this the diurnal drop.
The diurnal drop. Okay, so I picture that natural drop as being similar to a slow leaking tire.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, the internal pressure of that cortisol is just slowly, steadily hissing out over a 12 or 16-hour period.
That's a very accurate way to visualize the baseline physiological process. It's meant to be a slow deflation.
But then the researchers introduced the nature pill, and the intervention was so simple. Just having participants spend 20 to 30 minutes sitting or walking in an outdoor natural environment.
Just being outside.
Right.
Yeah.
And when they measured the saliva after that specific window, the participants were no longer experiencing that standard slow leak.
Right, at all.
The data showed that taking that 20 to 30-minute nature pill forces a cortisol drop that is nearly 2 times greater than the expected average drop for that time of day.
It's huge.
It really is. It was as if someone took that slow-leaking tire and suddenly just yanked the valve core entirely out to let the stress out twice as fast.
Yeah, because the environment acts as a massive chemical catalyst. Your body is already attempting to slowly wind down, but the presence of nature actively intercepts the chemical stress response.
Just speeds it up.
Exactly. It signals the adrenal glands to dump that cortisol at an accelerated rate. You're essentially fast-tracking your physiological recovery process.
Okay, but this raises a question for me. If we are just walking, does it matter where we walk? Can't I just take a brisk 20-minute walk down a busy city street to get the same drop? My legs are moving, my heart is pumping, I'm technically outdoors breathing oxygen.
It's a really logical assumption because we frequently conflate cardiovascular exercise with stress relief.
Right, getting the steps in.
Exactly. But the environment absolutely dictates the biological toll. To understand why the busy city street doesn't trigger the same relief, we actually have to look past the adrenal glands and focus on cognitive fatigue.
Okay.
Because walking down a commercial avenue and walking through a quiet botanical park, those are two vastly different neurological events.
Which perfectly brings us to attention restoration theory,
Yes.
RT.
Right. And looking at the research on this, they map out exactly why urban environments drain us so much.
Attention restoration theory really provides the framework for why your city walk fails as a nature pill. Think about the neurological demands of navigating modern urban infrastructure.
It's a lot.
It's exhausting. You are anticipating traffic at a crosswalk, you're reading flashing signs, you're filtering out the aggressive noise of construction equipment.
And dodging other people on the sidewalk.
Exactly. You're doing all this while trying to navigate around other pedestrians.
It takes a surprising amount of processing power to just, not get run over.
And psychologists define that specific type of processing power as directed attention. It is a top-down, exhausting mental effort centered right in your prefrontal cortex.
It's deliberate focus.
Right. You are constantly forcing your brain to focus on high-priority threats or specific tasks, while your brain actively burns energy to suppress a million other irrelevant distractions. Here's where it gets really interesting. When I was reviewing the mechanics of directed attention, it immediately reminded me of playing a high-stakes, fast-paced video game.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Yeah, like if you've ever played a game where you have to monitor every single pixel on the screen to survive, you know that physical feeling.
Your whole body reacts.
Right. Your shoulders tense up, your eyes barely blink, and when you finally put the controller down, your brain just feels entirely depleted. You've burned through your cognitive reserves.
That captures the invisible toll of navigating a city perfectly. Your directed attention battery is drained because your brain has been in a constant state of low-level threat assessment.
Just nonstop processing.
Yeah. Natural environments, however, completely bypass the prefrontal cortex's filtration system. They engage what researchers call involuntary attention through a mechanism known as soft fascination.
Soft fascination. I love that term. It implies that the environment is holding your attention, but without making demands on it.
Exactly. Soft fascination occurs when you observe phenomena like leaves moving in the wind or water rippling across stones in a stream.
Or clouds shifting in the sky.
Right. Your visual and auditory senses are engaged by the complexity of the patterns, but processing those patterns requires absolutely zero cognitive effort.
Because there's no threat.
Exactly. There's no threat to calculate and no complex information to decode.
So if navigating the city is the high-stakes video game, engaging in soft fascination is like staring at one of those mesmerizing old-school computer screensavers.
Oh, yeah. The bouncing shapes.
Right. Or the flying toasters. You know, you're watching it, your eyes are tracking the movement, but there is absolutely nothing to solve.
And because there is no top-down effort required, attention restoration theory shows that this period of effortless engagement allows the brain's directed attention mechanisms to rest.
To finally just power down.
Yeah. It replenishes and recovers from that mental fatigue. The brain is quite literally repairing its capacity to focus.
I mean, I understand the mechanism, but I'm kind of skeptical about how strict it is.
How do you mean?
Well, let's say I go to the park, my brain is ready for soft fascination, but I decide to listen to a deep dive like this one. Or I'm scrolling through a few emails while sitting on a bench looking at the trees. Does that ruin the soft fascination? Am I able to multitask my recovery?
It is an incredibly common temptation, but the data indicates the mechanism fails if you try.
Really? Completely fails?
Yes, you cannot hack the system by multitasking your cognitive recovery. Digital screens, podcasts, text messages, these inputs demand what psychologists classify as hard fascination.
Hard fascination.
Right. They require active processing, decoding, and emotional regulation. If you introduce hard fascination into a natural environment, you are manually overriding the soft fascination.
You're forcing the prefrontal cortex to stay online.
Exactly. You are keeping the directed attention battery turned on, which completely prevents the restorative effect of the nature pill.
Wow. So the brain is actively repairing its attention center, but its ability to do so is entirely contingent on what it is currently interacting with. If you feed it a demanding screen, it maintains its defensive posture. But if you feed it a passive leaf, it powers down and recovers.
The recovery is entirely dependent on removing the cognitive load.
Okay, so the cognitive battery only recharges when we are immersed in an undemanding environment. But what happens to the rest of the nervous system if we isolate just one sense?
What do you mean by isolate?
Like, does cognitive fatigue require being physically outside in that environment, or does something happen when we simply look at a natural setting from indoors?
That's a great transition. There was a systematic review in 2019 that answered that exact question.
Okay.
They looked at a series of indoor experiments designed to isolate the visual exposure to nature from all the other factors, like fresh air or walking.
So just the visuals.
Just the visuals. They wanted to know what happens to the human body when it merely views natural elements. And the findings demonstrated that visual exposure alone has a profound, immediate impact on the autonomic nervous system.
Wait, so I don't even need to be hiking a mountain. Just the visual input of looking at nature forces the heart to physically slow down.
Yes. When participants viewed elements of nature from indoors, it actively increased their parasympathetic nervous activity.
Which is the rest and digest system, right?
Exactly. It's the branch responsible for the rest and digest state.
Oh.
And simultaneously, the visual input actively suppressed their sympathetic nervous activity.
The fight or flight system.
Right. So it turns up the relaxation and turns down the stress response.
So the visual cue basically acts as a master switch in the nervous system. It forces the alarms to shut off and activates the body's repair mode.
And the physical markers of this shift were significant. Just viewing nature, as opposed to viewing urban environments, resulted in measurably lower systolic blood pressure and a decreased heart rate.
That is wild.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests that our visual cues of natural safety are completely bypassing our conscious thought.
Right, you weren't thinking about it.
Exactly. You don't have to consciously look at a tree and think, what a pleasant oak, I should lower my heart rate now.
Right.
The optic nerve registers the specific fractal patterns of the branches, the natural colors, the soft movement, and it instantly rewrites your physiological state before your conscious mind is even involved.
It's just entirely automatic.
It is a testament to our ancient evolutionary hardwiring. Human biology evolved over millions of years within natural landscapes.
So we're programmed for it.
Yeah. Consequently, those specific visual patterns signal safety to our brains on a primal level. The recognized absence of an environmental threat allows the autonomic nervous system to immediately stand down.
The power of visual input alone is just remarkable. But when we actually step back outside, we aren't just engaging our optic nerve, right? We are breathing. And the research covering the olfactory aspect, the smell, introduces some truly wild biochemistry. I'm looking at the data on the Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku.
Which translates to forest bathing.
Right.
And for a long time, the Western world viewed forest bathing as just this poetic metaphor for a nice walk.
A very nice, relaxing stroll in the woods.
Exactly. But the recent research analyzes the literal chemical exchange occurring between human lungs and the local flora. Trees physically emit volatile organic compounds into the surrounding air.
Volatile organic compounds.
Yes. These are essentially wood essential oils, specific chemical compounds like alpha-pine and limon, collectively known as phytoncides.
But why are trees expending energy to sweat out essential oils into the air? What's the point?
It is their active immune defense system. They emit these phytoncides to protect their bark and leaves from insect infestations, bacteria, and fungal diseases.
Oh, wow.
It creates this invisible chemical shield floating in the air around them.
So the trees are engaged in their own localized survival mechanism. How does human biology react when we walk through that defensive shield and inhale those phytoncides?
The physiological response is profound. When human olfactory receptors and lungs process these specific volatile organic compounds, it sends a signal that significantly boosts human immune function.
It actually boosts our immune system.
Substantially. The data shows that inhaling phytoncides actively increases both the total number and the functional activity of human natural killer cells.
Natural killer cells.
Yeah.
NK cells.
All right. NK cells are the frontline soldiers of your innate immune system. They are the specialized white blood cells that actively seek out and destroy virally infected or compromised cells within the body.
So the trees are essentially acting like giant stationary pharmacists.
That's a great way to put it.
They are continuously dispersing this invisible airborne medicine solely to protect themselves, and we humans can just wander through the crossfire and accidentally upgrade our entire immune system.
And while the phytoncides are ramping up the production of those natural killer cells, they are simultaneously triggering a massive reduction in the circulation of stress hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline.
Wow.
This raises an important question. It really highlights the deep evolutionary symbiosis
Mm.
between human biology and local plant life.
Right, because we didn't just evolve in a box.
Exactly. Our immune systems didn't develop in a sterile vacuum. They evolved in constant chemical dialogue with the defensive mechanisms of the environments around us. It seems we physically rely on their immune systems to optimize our own baseline function.
Which is pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It certainly provides a stark biological perspective on how detrimental it might be to completely isolate ourselves in sterile, concrete, climate-controlled environments.
We're cutting ourselves off.
We are effectively severing ourselves from a biochemical support system that our bodies evolved to expect and utilize.
Okay, we've covered some incredibly dense biochemistry today. I mean, we have cortisol dropping at double the rate. We have cognitive batteries recharging through soft fascination.
Visual inputs flooding the nervous system's master switch.
Exactly. And volatile organic compounds ramping up our white blood cell counts. But I want to bring this back down to a practical reality for the listener.
Sure.
How do you apply this dense science to a modern, busy schedule when, most of us don't live next to an ancient cedar forest?
Well, we can synthesize all of this research into what we might call the 20-minute prescription. And there are 3 highly actionable takeaways here.
Let's hear them.
First, aim for 20 minutes. Referencing the study on the diurnal drop, you do not need to embark on a 3-day wilderness retreat to see a change in your biomarkers.
That's a huge relief.
It is. The most efficient, dramatic acceleration of the cortisol drop happens specifically between the 20 and 30-minute mark of sitting or walking outside.
Which means a lunch break or just a quick sit on the patio before checking emails is entirely sufficient to trigger the mechanism.
Highly sufficient. Second, urban nature counts.
Okay, good.
The research on phytoncides and attention restoration emphasizes that you don't require untouched wilderness. City parks, tree-lined suburban streets, or even spending 20 minutes tending to a small garden in your backyard will trigger these physiological benefits.
The body just needs some organic environment.
The body simply needs intentional exposure to whatever organic environment is accessible.
That removes a massive barrier to entry. The relief isn't gatekept by geography or travel budgets.
Precisely. And the third takeaway is perhaps the most difficult for modern society. You have to leave the phone behind.
Ah, the hardest part.
It really is. If you want the prefrontal cortex to recover through soft fascination, the digital screen must be out of sight.
Because it's hard fascination.
Right. You cannot reap the cognitive benefits of the nature pill if you are maintaining a state of hard fascination through emails, social media, or audio input. The brain needs the cognitive load removed entirely.
So what does this all mean? It means that right now, you possess a scientifically backed, heavily researched, and entirely free prescription for your daily stress.
You really do.
You don't need a massive life overhaul, and you don't need to purchase a complex solution. The mechanism for your relief is an ancient system already built into your biology, waiting for you to simply step outside, disconnect from your devices, and activate it.
It is an incredibly empowering realization for personal health.
Absolutely.
But taking a broader view, it also leaves us with a larger challenge to consider regarding how we structure society as a whole.
How so?
Well, if visual exposure to natural fractal patterns fundamentally lowers blood pressure and flips the autonomic nervous system into rest and digest mode, as demonstrated in those indoor experiments.
Right, just looking at nature.
And if even nature imagery assists in cognitive attention restoration, how should we be radically redesigning our indoor spaces?
Whoa.
Could we systematically integrate artificial nature, organic geometry, and visual mystery into the architecture of our windowless offices, or hospital recovery rooms, or digital workspaces?
That would change everything.
It opens up the possibility of designing buildings that quite literally trick our bodies into a perpetual state of soft fascination and physiological healing, even when we are entirely indoors.
That is a profound thought to leave on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.